Welcome to Beacon of Speech. I'm Fred Hunt. That's Ted Coley. Hey, Ted Coley.
How you doing?
Great. We are going to start picking on Ted
Nice,
Coley right.
Nice hat.
Oh, yeah. You like my hat? You got the shirt. I got the hat.
You're like Eminem or something.
No, that's closer to this. Yo, yo, yo. But anyhow, welcome to Beacon of Speech. What are we doing today? We are going to start picking on Ted Coley right from the get-go. I keep saying every episode at the end, I apologize. I said we're not going to pick on Ted Coley. The last 3 or 4 episodes, I go back on my word and I pick on him right from the start. So if you want to yell at me, that's fine. This is what we're going to pick on Ted Coley about. One of Ted Coley's favorite bands of all time is the Eagles. You might have heard of them. Glenn Frey, the late Glenn Frey, Don Henley, Joe Walsh, that other guy, the long-haired guy.
Timothy B.
A bunch of other people I don't care about. Okay? Now, why are we talking about the Eagles? Why are we talking about the Eagles? The very first thing that we're starting on Beacon of Speech, besides just to be mean to Ted. Okay? To me, when I was a young man, you used to go to a concert, pay $10, $20, $30. If you wanted to break the bank, you were going to spend $70 or $80 and go to the stadium and go see the Rolling Stones or go see Pink Floyd. Would you say $70, $80 is how much you'd pay for Pink Floyd or Floyd or the Rolling Stones in the 80s?
I guess. I'm trying to think. When I went to see the Eagles in '94, I think it was like $46.
Okay. Well, that's where we're going. The Eagles broke up. They came back. And I remember it was specifically the Eagles. They did the Hell Freezes Over tour. And I remember writing in business magazines that the Eagles were either greedy bastards or geniuses. They were the first band to consistently ask for $100 tickets. Whatever tickets came before then, they broke the century mark. And you might have got tickets for $46, but you did not sit where you could see the Eagles.
Oh, no.
You probably sat up in the top of Municipal Stadium, and your nose was bleeding, and you're wiping your face
next to a
off.
pigeon.
Yeah, a pigeon shitting on your or crapping on your shoulders. Sorry, pigeons crapping on your shoulders, and you're like, I paid $46. I could hear better on my radio. So anyhow,
and I'm sitting up in the rafters and listening to Glenn Frey telling me to buy a shirt.
So anyhow, I always remember the Eagles are the band that made rock and roll expensive. They're the ones that. Now, you could argue, say you want to argue with me and say, well, the Rolling Stones did. Not as much as the Eagles, okay? They were not as crass as the Eagles were.
To me, the Eagles, and I could be wrong, but to me, the Eagles were the first band to do that.
Yes. The first band who, and when they came back, me and you have talked about this on Beacon of Speech. When they broke up, they shattered because everything the Eagles did, they split 5 ways. You know, they put their hands in the middle. Go ahead and put your hand in the middle. All for one, one for all. Let's go, right? They said, we're going to come back, but Glenn Frey and Don Henley get all the money, and then everybody else gets the scraps, okay?
Yeah, trickle down.
Trickle down. Joe Walsh is like, you're my best friends, whatever you say.
Trickle down rock and roll.
And Timothy Schmidt, he said...
Glenn Frey and Don Henley needed more money so they could create more jobs.
Yeah, that's going to be the next part of Beacon of Speech. But so they went on, and they kept going. They put out another album that I didn't care about. Did you buy the new one in 2000 or 1996 or whatever?
No.
Glenn Frey died a couple of years ago, and I taunted you. I said, ha, 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 Glenn Frey's dead. And you're like, you know what, Fred, you're an a-hole, right? But I said, Glenn Frey is not getting the love of a David Bowie or a Prince. Everybody was like, well, Glenn Frey got what he wanted, which was big bags of cash, right?
His tombstone is in the shape of $1.
Yeah, nobody's talking about the legacy of Glenn Frey. You just don't hear about it, right? So, today, and I called Ted on the phone personally and told him, the Eagles broke up after Glenn Frey died. They said the Eagles don't exist anymore without Glenn Frey, and it was very touching, and they all cried. And then a couple of months later, they're like, well, you know what? We could make more money without Glenn Frey because Glenn Frey had this big chunk of money that he was shaving off the top. If we don't have Glenn Frey, it's more for us, right? So they announced this week the Eagles plot the 2018 North American tour, but they're old. They're close to 70.
Oh, yeah.
They cannot go out every night and sing rock and roll songs. The Eagles barely sing rock and roll songs now. It's that lazy country rock crap, right? You can do that when you're 90. You know, your lion eyes, right? And you can do it. You could. We could set up in a nursing home, and they could still do Lion Eyes and charge $100 on the stream.
Pretty soon they'll be the old guys in the Lion Eyes song.
Yeah, they will be they're already. It won't be soon. They will be. But so they have a North American tour. I think it's 20 dates over like 2 months, where like they do one date, they take a week to rest, they set up their giant show. Okay, so I went to Eagles.com just to antagonize Ted about one of his favorite bands. Now, me and you, we're not going to go to LA, and we're not going to New York, and we're not going to Dallas, okay, the big stops. The closest stop to me and you is Indianapolis. Me and you could feasibly go see the Eagles in Indianapolis. Would you say that's true?
they're not even coming here?
They're not coming to Cleveland. They're only coming to large markets and metroplexes. Their philosophy is you come to them, not they come to you.
All right.
So it's like 2 nights in LA, Dallas, Atlanta, and they're not hitting every small town in between.
So not only do I need to spend, I don't know, what's a ticket, $200?
Oh, that's where we're going.
Not only do I need to spend that much, but I also need to meet them
at a
halfway.
Large city. Yes, they're not coming to Cleveland. They're not coming to Columbus. They're not coming to Cincinnati. I don't believe they're coming to Detroit. I think Indianapolis, they said, well, that's good for the Midwest. Just get to Indianapolis.
Okay.
And they also are not selling out the giant stadiums like they used to, right? They are basically going to field houses, the Indianapolis field house, right? Now, if you want to go to Indianapolis, and this is where I'm poking Ted, okay, specifically poking Ted. You remember when rock and roll used to be the music of rebellion?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If you want that same nosebleed ticket to see the Eagles in Indianapolis after you drive there, how much is that nosebleed ticket that you paid for $46 for when you saw them in Cleveland? Nosebleed.
How much is it now?
Yes, nosebleed ticket to see the Eagles in 2018.
I'll stick with my original thing, $200.
$167.
I was close.
Now, I went to...
That's the lowest ticket.
That is the lowest ticket. I went to Eagles.com, and then I went to the ticket broker through the Eagles, right? Not some random site. I'm in the second top row in Indianapolis, as far back as you can go. $167. Now, Ted deserves better, okay? Ted doesn't go to very many concerts, right?
Mm-hmm.
You deserve to see... I want Don Henley to be playing the drums, and he's sweating on you, okay? Second row in Indianapolis. I'm covering it with my thumb. According to, again, this is straight from the Eagles website. You're going to the ticket broker. You want to be in the second row of the Eagles. How much does it cost?
$1,500.
$2,750 straight from the Eagles website. Now, the last time I went to a concert, I went to the Pixies. I went to go see the Pixies and their little college band, and I think we paid $38. And the club only held 2,000 or 3,000. It wasn't that big. Okay, it was the Agora. Do you know how big the Agora is in Cleveland?
I believe it or not, I've never been there.
Okay. Well, the Agora is just a big club. Okay?
I don't think I've been there.
So they made good money, and I saw the 2 Pixies buses, and they put on a good show, right? 2,000.
Where is the Agora? I know it's
on East 55th in Euclid.
Oh, okay.
So you've been by it. You just haven't gone.
Yeah, I've never been there though.
But inside, it's an old club. You know what I mean? It's been there for 60 years. I think they had Elvis there when he was touring. Okay? So it took me 8 minutes to set up and then crush your little dreams. Because I know deep in your heart, you wanted to go in that second row. Okay?
What did you say it was? $2,750?
$2,750 for second row. Not the first row, the second row. Okay? And again, the Eagles could argue, well, you should have got the tickets before the ticket broker got. Well, it's
before the greedy ticket.
Yeah,
broker.
before the yeah, exactly. which goes back to where's the spirit of rock and roll anymore? And how much money do you need to make? Well, Don Henley has put his grandkids through college, right? But again, it's not the music of rebellion anymore. It's not. All it is seeing your old friends, you know, and it's like, we're going to charge you up the rear end to see your old friends. And that will end up, because they only come to Indianapolis and they're not coming all over the Midwest, that place will sell out. And they will make a ton of money. And they'll be like, well, we have a high overhead because we have backup singers. And we have to, somebody has to move the touring piano. But to me, that is the greediest thing you can do, is like what the Beach Boys did. You're 70 singing about California girls and charging $200 a ticket. Now, this is America. That's what capitalism does. You know, up with the thing and down with the, you know, what the market will bear. And Don Henley, him and Glenn Frey, they did what the market would bear. Would you say that's fair? They played the capitalism game, but capitalism is not supposed to be rock and roll. Now, you would turn around and say, well, you know who made it capitalism? Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger said rock and roll is a business. If we're doing this, we're supposed to be making money, right? But I hate Bob Dylan, you know that. But he still tours. I don't think he's charging $2,700 a ticket, period. You know, he comes around and he sings a crap thing. He charges, you know, $30 in Duluth or whatever. Well, I'm sorry, that's his hometown. He doesn't go back to Duluth. Poughkeepsie or Ypsilanti or whatever. So, this leads us into, me and Ted, for the last 4 months, we've been talking about doing an article for Beacon of Speech, the top 50 frontmen of all time, okay? And what happened is...
Oh, now it's 50?
Yeah, we're going to put our list together. We're going to add Crystal. It was the top 50 frontmen of all time, and it was on Cleveland.com, right? And I'm telling you right now, I haven't looked at your list, okay? But top 50 frontmen of all time does not count Glenn Frey or Don Henley. Yeah. Don Henley's behind the drums, and he's playing the drums, and he's singing into the mic, you know, on the drum. And that's great, but they don't bring it. You know, they don't bring it well, they'd be like, well, we're all about harmonizing, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about rock and roll frontmen, and we're going to argue about it, right? Because we said that Cleveland.com did a horrible job of picking frontmen, okay?
Yeah.
I agree, you agree. So we're going to set down what Cleveland.com made the rules, not our rules, Cleveland.com rules, and then we're going to go on what we said. And because this is going to be an article, there is not going to be a final answer today. Me and you are going to hash it out on air, and then we'll write the article later this week. And when I say we, you just hand it to me and I'll write it out. So I'm not going to make you do, you know, the thing. But basically what Cleveland.com, they said, who are the 50 top frontmen of all time, okay? And they said frontmen, specifically, you're the front of a band. So in your head, the first person I think of is like David Bowie or Elton John. They don't count. They're singers. You know, they're not lead singers of bands. So you automatically knock out types like Elton John or David Bowie. Well, Cleveland.com said, well, that means no Bruce Springsteen. And I'm like, well, that's bullcrap, because Bruce Springsteen is the head of Bruce Springsteen and an E Street Band, right? And so me and you made the criteria. If you can name someone else in the band, like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, I would not include them, okay? Because Tom Petty doesn't bring it. Well, you could be arguing with me, but you can name members of the Heartbreakers so they could be included in frontmen. You see what I'm saying? And then the other one, because if you can name someone in the band, if you can't name who played with Elton John, you know what I mean? You can't name who David Bowie's bandmates. You probably can with David Bowie. But it has to be front of a band. And I would include Bruce Springsteen. I would include Tom Petty. If you wanted to include Roy Orbison, you know, he's in the Hall of Fame. I saw remind me when me and you are done. We're going to look at Roy Orbison videos, okay? Write that down. Roy Orbison on your sheet.
Now,
Roy, oh, we're shaking the camera. Roy Orbison.
So I'm looking at this like, the 25 that I have written down here, I
Right.
might end up changing some of them once I hear your input.
Right.
And
Or-
vice versa.
And
maybe.
vice versa. I might be like, oh, screw that guy. But I'm pretty sure, because
So I'm saying right off the bat that this list that I have is not like my final draft.
and that's fine. And neither is mine, because I put 25 down, and then me and you are going to argue. And like, let's say John Lennon, okay? You can't use John Lennon by himself. You know, when he sang Imagine, imagine all the people, right? You can't do that because he's by himself. If you want to say John Lennon with the Beatles, that's fine, because you can name George Harrison, Ringo Starr. But you could be like, John Lennon didn't bring it when he was with the Beatles. Or you could say, well, it depends on what song he was. He was such a genius that
when you say bring it, do you mean like the stereotypical front man?
the front man.
Where he's out front, where he's almost separate from the band.
Right. And this is the way I put it.
See, nobody in the Beatles struck me that way.
Yeah.
They were a real band.
And I agree. This is the way, because I didn't like the way Cleveland.com set up their parameters, so I tried to set it up like this. And I'm straight, I have a beautiful wife, and you're straight, unless you want to surprise me today, right? But in here, I tried to make the Cleveland.com parameters as easy as possible. So basically, it was, you're the front of a band, and to me, a front man is great in 3 ways, okay? He's sexy, okay? The women all love him, whether he's gay or straight, it don't matter, okay? They were seeing the front man, they're like, we love him, right? I mean to cover your face, I'm sorry. Angry. They have to have a little anger. If you're harmonizing like Glenn Frey, I'm sorry, like, not Glenn Frey, Don Henley, you're not angry. Glenn Frey is angry like in Smuggler's Blues, right? That would count. That would be fine, okay? Or showman, like Freddie Mercury, where you don't know whether he's the lead singer or he's the lead actor of a play. You see what I'm saying? So here are my 3 criteria for a great frontman. Sexy, angry, showman. Okay? And they have to be the front of a band. And, Elton John, nobody, they call him the bitch, right? And I don't like to swear on
They have to have all 3 of those things?
No,
or?
that one of the 3.
Oh, at least one.
And the great frontmen have all 3. Okay? So I'll start on my list, and then we'll pick apart yours, and you can pick apart mine. Okay, we'll go from there. And then that'll end part 1. Okay? So, my great frontmen, right here. You ready? And if you don't know who they are, it's more fun, because then I get to...
I'm sure there will be a lot that I don't know.
Actually, you'd be surprised. It's mostly classic rock guys. Okay? The number 25, I have Boy George. You know who Boy George is.
Yeah.
I like the way he...
Yeah,
Okay. I got Boy George. Next one, Win Butler from the Arcade Fire. We saw him live. That guy saw Arcade Fire. There's 11 guys on stage, and Win Butler is like up front, like, whoa! He like owned the stage, even though there's 11 people. It looked like a carnival. Okay? He's like he's like the ringmaster at a circus. Okay? Next one is Brandon Urie from Panic at the Disco. You don't know who that is. He covers a Queen song and does it spot on. Okay? Brandon Urie is the closest thing to this generation's Freddie Mercury, but he's like a pale comparison. He's like a copy of a copy. Okay? Now, Panic at the Disco is not the biggest band. They had a big first album, and then they broke in half. And the rhythm section went this way. Brandon Urie took Panic at the Disco, right? Don't worry, we'll get into more that you know in a minute. Okay? Anthony Kiedis was the next one from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Morrissey from the Smiths. Okay? And I can name, not Morrissey now, Morrissey when he was with the Smiths, and, he's angry at Johnny Marr, and he's swearing at him, and he missed a note, and he's at his narcissistic best. When I think of Morrissey, I think of a bigger-than-life, like, Elton John type. You know what I mean? This guy, you absolutely have no idea. His name is Nivek Ogre. He's the lead singer of Skinny Puppy. And when I saw Skinny Puppy, this is one of the great things about them, is they're an industrial band, not like Nine Inch Nails, right? Not unlike Nine Inch Nails. He would get on the stage and do the most theatrical things. He used to take like a sponge of blood and squeeze it, fake blood, And as it ran down his face, he's screaming and there's spit and everything coming out. And I'll show you pictures. It used to be my profile picture. But that guy was a frontman. He understood the theatrics. Not to mention he didn't have anything else to do. They didn't have instruments. They had big, machines next to them. Right? Now we're going to get into a ton of people you know. Okay? Rob Halford, a Judas Priest. Dressed up in leather. He was ready to have a good time. Zach De La Roca from Rage Against the Machine. He looked like he was going to jump out and slit people's throats. Marilyn Manson. He's the definition of a front man. Paul McCartney when he was with Wings. Okay? When he was out, I was watching old Wings videos and he's going crazy. He's hitting instruments. The rest of the band's like standing there and he's like a hurricane. You've seen him with Wings, right?
Yeah, but I don't remember that.
Well, he compared to Linda, who just stood there and shook the tambourine. Okay. Mick Jagger, of course, we keep bringing up. Him strutting the strut, up and down the thing. Okay. Trent Reznor with 9 Inch Nails. I got Chuck D from Public Enemy because I can name Terminator X. He worked the turntables, right? And everybody knows Flavor Flav, right? Scott Weiland from the Stone Temple Pilots. That guy, when he was on drugs, but not in recovery, that's when he was at the top of his game. Gwen Stefani is the only front woman I have from No Doubt. She's awesome. Number 10 was Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys. 9, I had Mike Patton from Faith No More. Danny Elfman from Oingo Boingo. You know Danny Elfman?
I've heard that name, but I don't know him.
And then the other ones were like common with Cleveland.com. It was Roger Daltrey from The Who, David Byrne from the Talking Heads, Jim Morrison from The Doors, Axl Rose. You know Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses. Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin. Number 2, David Lee Roth. Notice I did not have Sammy Hagar in there. And Freddie Mercury from Queen. That was my list, 25 people. Now, some of those were common with Cleveland.com and some of them were not. Because Cleveland.com just picked people at random. Okay? Now, you probably heard about 18 of those people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's do your list. Let's start. You want to start at the top or bottom?
I will start at the bottom.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right, now give me a second here.
That's fine.
Just, if you can, just riff a little bit.
Go ahead.
All right, here we go. I'm going to start at number 25. I'm going to go with Joe Elliott from Def Leppard.
Yep. He's a good choice if you like Def Leppard.
Okay. Then I go to Eddie Vedder.
Okay.
Then Scott Weiland.
Okay.
David Coverdale.
Oh, is that Whitesnake?
Whitesnake.
Whitesnake. That's a different kind of sexy, Ted, right there. Go ahead.
I don't know what that means, but Steve Perry.
Oh, from Journey?
Yeah.
That is a great choice, except for I hate Journey.
Well, see, the thing is that I didn't consider whether I liked him or hated him.
Oh yeah, you want good frontmen because Steve Perry stood out there and just took off.
Yeah. All right. Brian Johnson.
AC/DC.
Yeah.
I like that choice. That's a good choice.
Bon Scott.
AC/DC.
Okay. John Bon Jovi.
Yes.
Peter Wolf.
Oh, Jay Giles Band. I should have put him on there.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to show you when me and you are done. I did a thing and I got Peter Wolf doing something. Peter Wolf is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Before he left to do his solo work, he was spot on.
Okay. Now, Paul Rogers.
Is he Bad Company?
Bad Company.
Bad Company. And the second lead singer of Queen after he died. After Freddie Mercury died.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, because they couldn't use it. They had to say Paul Rogers and Queen.
Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, you know what? I might change mine. Let me because you can name. It's not just Jimi Hendrix. It's Jimi Hendrix, and you know the guitar player's name. Who's the other guitar player?
Well, Well, it was just Jimi Hendrix, Noel Redding,
It was the Jimi Hendrix Experience,
Right.
correct?
and
So-
Mitch Mitchell.
Right. So you can name the band. It's not just Jimi Hendrix. It wasn't Jimi Hendrix him. It was all three of them.
Mhm.
You can name them. So I might change mine. I might put Jimi Hendrix on my list too. Go ahead.
Okay, where am I at? Okay, I think I'm at number 13,
Okay.
which is Axl Rose.
Oh, Axl Rose. He's
Which
awesome.
you-
I have.
Yeah, you have him. And then, I know you don't have him, number 12, Sammy Hagar.
I like Sammy Hagar. I like Sammy Hagar when he's saying "I can try 55." That's the
Oh,
problem.
yeah.
So
Number 11, Ozzy.
Ozzy, when he was in front of Sabbath, or when he was in front of Ozzy, his own band. Are you going with Sabbath, Ozzy? Because there's another guy who could rip it up until he started become doddering.
I'll go with Sabbath Ozzy.
Sabbath Ozzy. Okay, we're writing that down because I might change that too. Sabbath Ozzy. Okay.
Number 10, Steven Tyler.
Steven Tyler. I was one of the biggest Toys in the Attic fan, and then when they all went to rehab, and then they came back, and then they had their second wave of popularity, I didn't like Steven Tyler anymore.
Mhm.
I mean, he had done too much damage to his voice and to everything.
Well, you know, something that Howard Stern said once, he said, because I think he had both these people on his show,
Right.
he said Steven Tyler and Peter Wolf are like the same type of person.
Oh, okay.
You know, they reminded him of each other, you know.
I might change Peter Wolf too, because I like him. I
Yeah.
like Peter Wolf. That's a good one. I didn't think of him.
Where am I at? Number 9, Bruce Springsteen.
Now, that was one of the things. Cleveland.com said he didn't count.
Yeah.
But he's the front of the E Street Band. E Street Band's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I can name, Clarence Clemens was on sax, right?
Mhm.
Little Steven was guitar, is that correct?
Yeah.
Max Weinberg was the drummer, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think of Bruce Springsteen as just Bruce Springsteen. I think of them as a band.
Mm-hmm.
So I would include Bruce Springsteen. And he can bring it every night, whether he's, crying or he's, born to run up on the edge, on his toes, on the edge of the stage. So I would agree with that. But again, Cleveland.com said, well, we can't count him. He's a lead singer. Now, maybe if they're like, well, his wife was in the band, didn't she? Wasn't she like Linda, where she played the tambourine on the side?
Patty Sky Alpha.
Yeah. That doesn't count that we know who she is. Okay, so we're up to Bruce Springsteen. I agree with that.
Bruce Springsteen, number 9. And here's another one who's going to fall into the same debatable category, Billy Joel.
Billy Joel. Now this is
I,
where me and you are different. I can't name anybody who ever played with Billy
well,
Joel.
I know Liberty DeVito. I don't even know what he plays, but I just
Right.
know that name.
Well, since you know it, we're going to count it. Okay, but I'm not going to put it down because I'm not the biggest Billy Joel fan. I'm a fan that he is so talented that he can pull Christine Brinkley type supermodels, but not his musical skills.
See, and the thing is that once you start down that path, I'm like, well, then I could include, and I always think of these two at the same time, Elton John.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
but
we're
I
not
did.
including Elton John because you can't name anybody else with Elton John, can you?
I think he had a guitarist named like Davy Johnson or something like
Nope, that doesn't count. You get Bernie Taupin, and that's his co-writer. That's all you can name. Don't give me that, Ted Coley. Don't try and trick me. Who else you got on there?
Number 7 is Paul McCartney
Paul McCartney.
with
Okay.
Wings. Number 6, Bono.
Oh, Bono! Boo!
I almost took him off the list because I saw them on SNL last night.
Oh, how were they on last
I
night?
just saw the one song and I didn't like it.
I'm writing an article for Beacon of Speech. This is part of the reason that we're doing this today. And Rolling Stone said that the new U2 album is one of the 3 best albums of the year. And I'm like, there is no way in hell that U2 just rolled out the best album of the year. That last album, the last album in 2014, Songs of Innocence, was so deplorable. And then the new one is Songs of Experience. It's like a sequel. I'm like, I'm not going to listen to it because I don't want to make my ears bleed. Now, Bono, if you want to say, Fred, you're right, they suck. But Bono in the 80s, women loved and men wanted to be, I'll take that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I'm not going to argue with that. Because when we say Axl Rose, we're talking about Axl Rose in 1989 wearing a kilt and running across the stage like he's chasing the Roadrunner.
Mm-hmm.
You're not talking about Axl Rose today, who's got to wear a fedora over his hat and a do-rag, and he looks like Bret Michaels. He's like, on the night train! And you're like, oh my God, he sounds horrible. It might as well be Fred doing karaoke. Did you have any more?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so keep going. So I agree at one time. I just don't, Bono's not my thing.
Okay, number 5 is Mick Jagger.
Mick Jagger, you have to put him in. You can't leave him out or else the list doesn't count.
No, wait a minute. You know what?
Did you skip someone?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what happened, but I have like 2 11s.
That's okay. That's okay.
Jim Morrison.
Jim Morrison, you have to put down. You can't leave him out. He's the Lizard King.
Yeah, I don't know what I did here, but yeah, something's messed up. But okay, number 4 is David Lee Roth.
Okay.
Number 3 is Robert Plant.
Yep, we both got that.
Number 2 is Roger Daltrey.
Roger Daltrey of The Who, you cannot pass him up.
And number 1 is Freddie Mercury.
Of course. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to tie up part 1 of Beacon of Speech. Okay? Me and you, we're going to hash this out. We're going to get numbers 1 through 25. Your list is valid. I don't have a problem with anybody. The only one I would argue about is Billy Joel. When it comes to whether he's a singer or not, you can name them, so we're going to count them. Okay? But again, I don't respect Cleveland.com's criteria. And we're also going to ask Joe. We're going to ask Joe to throw in some of his favorites. For all I know, he's going to say the lead singer of the Locusts or something like that.
Is that an actual group?
Yeah. They're a noise band. And the Locusts, they're so hard. They're like harder than punk, right? Their songs are all like 48 seconds. Say this hand is a microphone. That's the Locusts. Okay, I'm not exaggerating. I'll let you listen to the Locusts. Okay, so for all I know, Joe Coffin, and I asked my wife to be a tiebreaker on a few because I think we both have Freddie Mercury, Roger Daltrey, Robert Plant, all near the top 5.
David Lee Roth.
David Lee Roth. So she's gonna break ties between like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then what we'll do is we'll roll out the article. We will not do a song of the day for this part. What we're going to do is stop here, and we are going to go to part 2 of Beacon of Speech in a second, and we'll do song of the day then. I'm Fred Hunt. That's Ted Coley. Today was an experiment in open, free thought and bouncing back on to free thinking. So we'll stop here, and we'll see you in a little while.